for my first question is, how are you faring in this strange new world?
Personally, of course, the first thing, as an organist, I lost my organ. The churches were locked against me, but I kept going with the old fingers on the piano and kept up all the repertoire. But all the concerts went down the drain. But to my surprise and delight, Norway became possible. The various governments decided I could get there and back, and also my recording guy from Hyperion. So we went and made a CD, which I'm really delighted about. And luckily I was still in good training with the fingers. And 3 weeks before we set off, I managed to get onto an organ down in the Surrey Hills, a lovely new organ. And so I actually feel a great feeling of success on those lines.
Brilliant.
As far as the choir is concerned, Twickenham Choral, we managed to keep going in a sense with the virtual rehearsals. I, as an oldie, had no idea what to do, but my assistant, Rebecca Taylor, came to the rescue and did these rehearsals, virtual rehearsals, which in fact, out of our roughly 100 members, about 80 started and 60 hung on there for quite a few weeks. And we did some rehearsals in that way. So kept going to the summer, and then we should be starting in September. And September, the committee is hoping that we can attend at least part of the choir and rehearse in person. Maybe, I'm told, with masks, which rather phases me, but at a distance. Anyway, the thing is that I think we will try and keep things going, rehearsing from about Thursday week.
And well, on what repertoire?
Well, it'll be Messiah and Rachmaninoff Vespers, with the view to doing some sort of concert in December. Who knows whether it will be with an audience or what. You, Bob, had sort of promised us in better times that we would be doing the Rachmaninoff Vespers in St. Martin-in-the-Fields sometime in the autumn. Well, maybe we will rehearse it with the view to the future. Maybe you'll let us in to St. Martin-in-the-Fields, if at all possible, sometime in the coming 12 months.
Well, I mean, everything there is up in the air like everyone else. And all I can tell you is that they're doing 1 or 2 odd, tiny concerts over the autumn. And I imagine they'll do a few similar ones in the spring. But basically, they're not planning on regular concerts until after Easter.
Yes.
So at that point,
anyway, it does no harm to rehearse. That's what I found through lockdown.
No, but I think there may, I think all this exit from lockdown is about timing and being able to react quickly to things.
Yes.
And so if you're rehearsing things and you've got repertoire,
yes,
then if there's an opportunity, we can fix
jump in.
We can fix a concert up in a fortnight.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that we've learned about this weird period. That I mean, we can react very quickly.
Well, as you mentioned, we've had quite a long period together. You have fixed our orchestras over quite a few years. I'm not actually sure quite how many years, Bob, but before you, I mean, I've been conducting Twickenham Choral for rather a long time, sort of over 45 years. And in that time, I've had at least a couple of fixers before yourself. And we will draw a veil over that, quite frankly, because ever since you've been fixing our orchestras, there's been complete sea change. It's been wonderful to have somebody so brilliant. It's a really special skill to keep really good players on board to come and perform with such expertise, such brilliance, and such good humour.
I'm going to stop you before I get blush too much, because I'm going to tell you about. This is nothing to do with the Camino or anything, but I'm going to tell you about the favourite moment of the Brandenburg orchestras and Twickenham choral, and it is a professional's view of you. Well, we did.
Am I going to get embarrassed at this point?
I don't know. We will find out.
I'll leave the room.
It was a performance of the B minor Mass with the Brandenburg Baroque soloists, the original instrument specialists, and when it got to the Benedictus, which most people will know, but is for tenor solo, flute obbligato, cello continuo, and organ. It's a little piece of chamber music. And the most musical thing you did at that point was that you sat down and you let them get on with it. And it was everybody in the orchestra glanced at each other at that point, because very few choral society conductors have that vision. And that was an absolute triumph. And they played it, of course, they played it beautifully, and they may well have played it beautifully if you've been conducting, but it didn't. You knew that it didn't need conducting, and that's the musician in you. There you are. That's my tribute.
Thank you.
So,
this is rather a negative tribute. Something I didn't do.
No, not at all.
But no. I take the point, and it is chamber music, and I was redundant
because you created the space.
Yes.
And that's,
and I had trust in the singer and the instrumentalists to make chamber music.
A brilliant moment. So that's that. So you know vaguely what we've been doing on this Camino lark.
Yes.
It's a 4-week patch, and we look at one piece of music, and we do lots of other things bolted on all around the sides. The first one was Ave Verum Corpus, because that was sort of safe ground, and then And the idea is that
yes, and also I've listened to your video, watched your video. It's very, very nice.
It's not bad. It is impossible to be perfect, because you're doing it. I mean, some people. I mean, there's we have people in Canada joining us, so it's not possible to be perfect, but it has a spirit.
Yes. Well, Twickenham. I'll just intersperse that Twickenham has put together, or is in the process of putting together, the Silver Swan, and I was singing bass, and I tell you, that wasn't something to be listened to at all. I'm hoping that doesn't come through at all.
That's it. So 2 questions: is that bass 1 or bass 2? Because they're a split, aren't they?
Yes. I'd sort of it was a sort of bass 2, and the bottom F sounded like nothing on earth.
No, but I sympathise, because when we started our first step, Matt, who you know very well, is both a magnificent musician, but also a technical whiz kid. So he's been doing all the editing and recording and so on. And he's produced this guide to how to record yourself well. And that's part of the resources that we share with everyone. And I decided I had to be the test case. I had to be the guinea pig. So I followed his instructions, and I recorded me singing Ave Verum in both. I sang both the tenor and the bass, and it was exactly, for me, it was a horrible experience that everyone else describes, and we all feel that we hate it. But I think he must be a magician, because it didn't seem to stick out too much. So what we do is that everyone who is a full member on step 1 votes for the repertoire for stage 2, and so on. So then we voted for the Agnus Dei from the Fauré. Now I know you've conducted the Fauré quite a lot of times. So, and this is historic now because this is all been recorded, and we premiere the video in 2 days' time. So if you had been in that stage of thinking about how to record it online, or what this is the Agnus Dei, what anything would have sprung to mind that we might have missed it?
Well, I'm sure you didn't miss it, but I did sort of sit down like I was preparing it for taking a rehearsal with the choir or something, and one of the things that struck me again was just the harmonic movement. And I don't know whether you remember the sempiterna Requiem before letter E. I mean, perhaps you haven't got it in front of you, but it's all that the sopranos sing is a B natural followed by a C natural, followed by a B natural, followed by a C natural. And I mean, it's just one example of, if you analyze the harmony, it's simply an E major harmony under that B, a C major harmony under the C, and where I feel that there's likely to be a problem is the next B from the sopranos, because under that is not an E major chord, but an E minor chord. And this difference of from E major to E minor will possibly make them feel a bit sad or whatever it is, and naturally want to sing that B natural a little bit too flat. So it's things like that that I would look at if I was preparing this sort of piece. And a lot of the time he is shifting in harmonic thirds, rather sort of Schubertian in that way, sort of shifting the chord from E major to G major, or B to sorry, A to C, all that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Going in thirds, it analyzes down to that. Now, you may think this is boring analysis, but one of the things I've noticed about a lot of your players in the Brandenburg is that a lot of them are composers. And when they're composers, they really know how music works, and you can tell that they're not just playing their line, but they know everything that's going on around them. I feel that fairly strongly, and so I'm just going around in platitudes here, but that's what I felt about the Fauré. And you also mentioned Locus Easter. By the way, I've got bees in my bonnets about how pronunciation of the Latin. I don't know whether this is anything that you tackle. But
Matt will be delighted. Matt is our permanent vocal coach in the Brandenburg, and he's produced a whole load of resources for people to
That's great.
Phonetic pronunciation. So what the one thing that you fear is Locus Easter.
Absolutely.
I suspect.
Any sort of diphthong. Yes. One of my sadnesses in life is that some choir members find it very difficult to sing the word Sabaoth, as in, where it comes, and not in one of these pieces, but Sabayot. And I think immediately of a scene with yachts sailing around in the ocean, and that Y gets me. I jump out of my skin. I'm told that when we come back to rehearsals, I'm not allowed to make any loud noises, because I have to keep very gentle with the choir, because otherwise I send them all my terrible germs.
Matt, are you enjoying this?
Yeah, well,
It's
Locus
excellent.
is
Excellent.
Locus Iste, Locus Iste, Locus Iste, and Deo, not Deo, not with an OW, Deo factus est. I mean, it's sort of Italian at Latin. I tend to go for, and but anyway, certainly the absence of diphthongs. I don't know how do you conduct this, Bob?
With the Bruckner?
Yeah.
Do you mean for the recording or
No,
for like in a proper normally?
And crotchets or minims?
Oh, crotchets, I'm afraid.
Why are you afraid?
Well, because in an ideal world, you doing it in a minim feel would create more of a line.
Yeah.
So this is something we've been having discussions about in our rehearsals and our sectionals, and that even in live performances, the balance that you have to strike or I have to strike is the balance between accuracy and musicality.
Yes.
Because they're very different.
Yes.
And when we then apply that to an online recording situation where everyone's recording individually,
yes,
you kind of have to be more aware of the accuracy because it shows up so crucially.
Yeah.
And then it's very hard to drag back the musicality into it.
Yeah. Well, of course, with a live performance, which is the ideal. I mean, all our ideals, presumably, and the members of the choir, however big, are really sensing everything. I mean, it's no different really from a string quartet. They're sensing everything together. And why shouldn't a large group? And you know, and sometimes one in rehearsal just stops conducting and walks away and just listens, and they continue and that sort of thing. But it's in an ideal world, when the choir knows it a bit, I would conduct this in 4 minims. In other words, in pairs of bars, so that it had more of a flow and more of a feeling. It works all the way through, except one place where there's an extra bar. But you know, and of course the difference between an orchestra, which is reading their music for the first time, or the second time in the case of the performance, they absolutely rely on downbeats. Is that not right?
Yes.
And yes. So, you know, if you don't give them downbeats, then their counting is up the spout, and they're lost. Except obviously in repertoire that everybody knows inside outside. But it's different with a choir who, frankly, and probably not watching your gestures in a critical way. I find that many choral conductors do tend to use both hands and do a sort of Grecian vase technique, which is both hands are doing the same thing. I mean, that's not a criticism. If they want to do that, that's fine. But for me, that I've been taught. I was taught by Adrian Bolt, actually. You know, I studied with him, but the minimum action, but that doesn't, and he actually criticized me for, he said you can do a little bit more gesture at one point. So the thing is that I think the choir are not necessarily looking for the downbeat, but sometimes, of course, they do rely heavily on one place. Of course, is the 40-part motet, which the downbeat is the only thing they're interested in, frankly.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing that we've discovered in the online recording is that you can cheat. There are lots of disadvantages in doing it that way, but there are also advantages. So what I'm putting a hostage to fortune out here, because we don't start working on Locus Easter for another 9 days, I think, 8 or 9 days. So we finish on Saturday is the end of the Fauré step, and then we have a week off because both we, especially Matt, needs a bit of downtime to unscramble the brain. So we're starting on the Bruckner for another 9 or 10 days yet. But I think you've just this is fantastic, because this is the joy of these kind of conversations. I think what you've triggered is that one thing we found with the Fauré is that I could conduct in a broader way.
Yes.
And the choir could follow that, but we also had a click track underneath it. So because when you conduct in a broader way, what the thing that you identified is how the choir reacts together. The basses all breathe together and they all sing together. That doesn't happen here. So you need to replace that with some other factor, and that has been in particularly in Ritz and so on, using bits of click track in pieces. So you can sort of combine the two. Another one we came up with, which I was quite pleased with this, in the Agnus Dei, when it's dropping by semitones.
Yes.
That's always a tricky spot for choirs to retain the pitch. And what we had on the backing track was a ping of a piano note on the first note of each bar.
Wait, you mean an individual note or a...
Yes. So sopranos had a track that had a ping, 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 ping. So even if they got out a bit in the bar, they were refocused on the bar line, pitch-wise.
Yes.
Cheating. You can't do it in a concert. But there's enough to be lost in the online world, so we may as well take advantage of little cheats if we can.
Absolutely.
So, what do you think? Where do you think this Bruckner piece sits? Either for him or for the whole. It for some reason it just excites me.
Well, it's got his. For instance, the dynamics are quite extreme. This is very typical of Bruckner, isn't it? His symphonic writing and everything. You've got acres of pianissimo and acres of long sections of very loud, but here he brings it into a little small area. In my own other line, the organ line, Bruckner actually did write some organ pieces, and they're completely and utterly dull. They have nothing to say for themselves at all, and yet all these Bruckner motets I absolutely adore, every last one of them. I think they're superb, so harmonically interesting, so varied, so beautiful, so dramatic, and everything. It's great stuff.
I think one of the things another thing we've been talking about is how composers were actually doing a job. He was a jobbing organist and composer and conductor, and maybe someone just said, "Oh, you've got to knock out three organ pieces by a week next Tuesday."
Yes.
I don't know. I'm guessing here, but if that were the case, and that was you or Mikkel or someone, you mentioned the composers,
Yes.
Oh my God, I've got to do it by Thursday. Here we go. Bang, 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 bang. I'll nick that bit from that piece I wrote last week. Bang, bang, bang. Yeah, that'll do. Thank you. Whew, thank God for that. I can now sit down and have steak and chips, because I couldn't do that until I'd finished my work.
Yes, well,
it's very practical. I mean, these are real people doing real things.
Yes, but they were driven people, the great ones. Yeah.
Yes, of course. So, look, I think our half an hour is almost up. So,
my goodness, where did it go?
It flew by, as it has done on similar occasions when we've met before. If it's just a little social chat. So I'm going to say thank you very much, Christopher. Those few little gems are insights which are going to help us either in our revisiting Fauré on another occasion or on our next journey when we do the Bruckner. Christopher, it's been an absolute delight, as it always is. Thank you so much for dropping in.